Alright guys, we gotta talk about Pokemon again here today, because last Friday we got some more news. Pokemon held their little Pokemon Presents video that they do every now and then. And this one's for the 25th anniversary. Which, I finally got to see this thing. I was a little late because Friday morning my internet decided to shit itself and we didn't get it back in until like Monday afternoon. So I finally got to get caught up on all the news, and I did get to see the presentation. Which I went into this expecting the worst, and this wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best either, but it could have been a lot worse. I was expecting it to be worse, so I guess you could call that a victory. But anyway, they opened with little montage of like the history of the franchise, which the only reason I even bother mentioning this is because I thought it was funny. When they got up to 2015, right before they showed Pokemon Go, the last thing they showed was a game over screen. I'm like, that's very fitting. But anyway, they opened with that, and then they showed a new trailer for the new Pokemon Snap game, which it's alright. I mean, I've talked before about how I think Snap is overrated, and I still feel that way, so it's there, it's fine. I don't really have much else to say about it. But then after that, we got into the real news coming out of this, which was they announced 2 games. Well, technically 3, but 2 of them are paired versions. And the first thing was the thing that everyone was expecting, but not exactly the way they were expecting it. The first thing they announced was the Diamond and Pearl remakes, the long-awaited Diamond and Pearl remakes, which are going to be called Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl. Now, these are coming out for the Switch at the end of this year. They said late 2021. Now, these games are not going to be the standard remakes like we normally get. Usually, with the past remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, it's just the old game in the current gen engine, in the current gen style. That's not what these are going to be. These are going to be a lot more stylized and more of what they're claiming to be a faithful remake to the originals. Now, the art style for these games, instead of looking similar to Sword and Shield, they have art that's much more reminiscent of the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake that came out recently. Sort of that's like a halfway cross between claymation and Mega Bloks. Like that toy-esque art style, I guess. So that's what these things look like in the overworld. Chibi-ized characters. The map is a lot like the original DS games map, except, in 3D. Which, I've seen a ton of people mouthing and bitching about the chibi-izedness and the art style and all that shit. Apparently they wanted it to look like Sword and Shield for some fuck reason. I don't know why you would want that. Which I didn't even complain that much about Sword and Shield's graphics outside of, the fucked up proportions in battle and the pop in. But I swear, the graphics whores and the open world shitters need to get together in a group and fuck off far into the distance, because I'm about tired of hearing from both of them. But anyway, I think the graphics on it looks fine. I think choosing an art direction like this that's more stylized is actually the better choice. And more stylized games like this tend to age better as well. So I'm actually on board with that decision. I think it looks good. It still has the, more traditional proportions during battle. So it's sort of a shift during battle, similar to all the games prior to Gen 8, basically. Well, Gen 7, kind of. But anyway, visually, I think they look good. The player characters, of course, are again Lucas and Dawn. One thing that I thought was sort of an odd choice is they have the same designs, like their outfits and stuff that they had in the original Diamond and Pearl. When usually the main characters get new outfits and a little bit of a redesign for the remakes, but they didn't get that this time. So the player characters look the same. A lot about the game looks the same. They seem to be stressing that it is going to be very similar to the original Diamond and Pearl. And there's a lot of debates over, whether the more negative aspects of the original Diamond and Pearl are going to be carried over. Which, if people quit bitching about the graphics long enough to focus on the actual potential real problems that these games are going to have, then it might actually be a little bit better. But the first thing that obviously jumps to mind is no, all the Pokemon are not going to be in these games. We pretty much know that's a fact. They said, before Sword and Shield came out, that that's going to be the standard going forward. They mentioned during this that you could, go on your journey with all the Pokemon that were in the original Diamond and Pearl. So that makes it sound like there's just going to be the 493 that were available in Gen 4, so Bulbasaur through Arceus. Now, if that's the case, then that pretty much rules out one of the things that I was hoping for, which was Sinnoh regional variants. I was hoping we would get regional variants for like the Gen 5 through 8 Pokemon in Sinnoh. But if none of the Gen 5 through 8 Pokemon are actually in the fucking game, then I don't think that's going to be happening. So that's one potential thing that I actually did want to see out of this that's probably pretty unlikely to happen now since they're going this different direction. It would really suck if it's not even the 493, if it's only like the 200 and whatever from the regional decks. Assuming we even get the platinum decks. When speaking of which, we don't know if any of the features from Pokemon Platinum are going to be included in these or not. I know some people are grasping at straws trying to say that, they saw one or two NPCs that were only in Platinum standing around in the trailer, and they showed Porygon Z for a split second, and they think that that automatically means that we're getting the Platinum decks. I think that's jumping the gun. I think there's a chance that they do add in some of the Platinum features. Now, a few NPCs and the expanded decks is one thing, and things like the Distortion World and the Battle Frontier and things like that are a totally another thing. It wouldn't shock me at all if they end up releasing, a $30 DLC for this game to give you a 2-hour Distortion World episode and the Battle Frontier tacked on. But we don't know which, if any, of the Platinum features are going to be included in these games. We don't know how the GTS is going to work. My guess is that it's just not going to work. The building will be there, I'm sure. But I don't think it's going to be functional because they want people to pay for their fucking shitty-ass cloud app service thing. So, I doubt there'll be a GTS actually built into these games. We don't know if the mythical events from the original Gen 4 are going to be available already built into the game without having to, actually get an event. Things like the New Moon Island event for Darkrai and the, what's it called, Flower Paradise event. I think it was Flower Paradise for Shaman. And if they do the whole Azure Flute thing finally for Arceus. We don't know if any of that's going to be in there. Hopefully they will be. That's one thing that I actually think has a decent chance of being in. They have started trickling out some of the older mythical Pokemon and making them available in-game naturally. Like, we had Deoxys and Oris, and isn't Keldeo catchable in Crown Tundra? I think he is. So they're starting to do that a little bit. So maybe Darkrai, Shaman, and Arceus, if not Manaphy too, will be available naturally in these games. Let's see. But we also don't know if Dialga and Palkia are going to be getting any new forms. They didn't show any new forms for them, but they also didn't show the cover arts. So, who knows? Since they're going the more faithful remake route, then they actually might not get new forms. It might be closer to like a Heart Gold Soul Silver situation than it would be to Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire situation. But that's another thing, we'll just have to wait and see. We also don't know if any of the things that were taken out of Sword and Shield are going to be coming back. They did say that these games are going to have the modern conveniences of the more recent Pokemon games. They mentioned that on the official site, which I'm assuming that means things like the ability capsule and those mints or whatever the fuck that let you change natures and things like that. We don't know if Mega Evolutions are coming back. They might, but I don't expect them to. Probably not. If they do come back, I highly, highly doubt that there will be any actual new ones. We don't know if Z moves are coming back. I can't imagine that they're going to. I would be stunned if Z moves actually came back. We don't know if they're going to add back any of the regular moves that were taken out of Sword and Shield. Which, like I said, I expect there to only be 493 Pokemon in this, the original Gen 4 up through Gen 4 Pokemon. It would suck really bad if they only had the up through Gen 4 moves. I think that would be a really bad choice because Gen 4 was the first gen where we actually got some decent movesets for a lot of Pokemon. So hopefully they don't just cull everybody back to their Gen 4 movesets as well. We also don't know if Dynamax and Gigantamax is going to be in it. I can't imagine it will be, because if it's supposed to be, really close design to the Sinnoh from Diamond and Pearl, I can't think of any areas where they would actually have the fucking room to do the Dynamax shit. Like, that was only limited to certain areas in Sword and Shield for a reason. So, anyway, there's a lot we still don't know about these games. One thing I do want to mention here is that these games actually are not being developed by Game Freak. Junichi Masuda is overseeing them as co-director, but it's being developed by another company named Ilka, which this was fun. I tried to look up Ilka to get a little more information about them because I hadn't really heard of them before, and the first two things that popped up when I typed in Ilka was the International Lactation Consultant Association and the Illinois Landscaper Contractor Association. Which, unfortunately, those groups are not the ones making these games. These games are not being developed by, lactating women and a bunch of landscapers from Illinois. But the actual Ilka that are making these games, I think it stands for I Love Computer Art. And they seem to be a relatively small company. I couldn't find a ton of information on them. They mentioned during the presentation that they worked on Pokemon Home. Yippee. But on their site, they mentioned that they worked on a few other big-time games, but they didn't exactly spell out what they did in these games. Like, they mentioned Nier Automata and Code Vein, Dragon Quest XI, a few big console titles like that, but I'm not sure what actual work they did on them. And then the rest of their profile seemed to just be like a few mobile apps and things. So this seems like a relatively small, relatively inexperienced developer that they're putting in charge of these. Which, since we don't really have much to go off of, I can't really say if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, Game Freak has been getting a lot of shit for how they've been handling these games, and people were begging somebody else to take over. Well, somebody else took over, at least for these. And we'll just have to wait and see how it turns out. But anyway, we also got one other game announcement during this, because the Diamond and Pearl remakes are not going to be the only Sinnoh-based games that they're coming out with. We're also going to be getting a prequel game set in Sinnoh, but far in the past, like when Sinnoh was first being settled by people. And this game is being developed by Game Freak. And it's called Pokemon Legends Arceus. So Arceus is getting his own game, which I think is kind of cool, because I like Arceus. But this game is very much different than the normal Pokemon game that we would expect to be getting out of Game Freak. I don't know if you would count this as main series or spin-off or whatever. Like, who gives a fuck at this point? But graphics-wise, it looks a lot more like Sword and Shield does. Improved a little bit. But, like, proportions-wise and things, it looks way more similar to that than the chibi-ized style we have for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But, like I said, it's set in very early Sinnoh, so it's got sort of like an ancient Japan aesthetic to everything. The player characters look like Dawn and Lucas, except dressed up like ninjas. Now, obviously, they're not Dawn and Lucas because it's set in the past, but, you know, it's probably like their ancestors or some bullshit. But you play as them, and there's some traveling professor that comes to Sinnoh, and basically you're working with him, and the concept is you're creating the first regional Sinnoh Pokedex for the region. So you're sort of going out into the wilderness and discovering what Pokemon are actually inhabiting Sinnoh and documenting it for the first time. So it's a very interesting concept. I love the idea of doing a Pokemon game set in another time period, set in the past or set in the future. That's something that I think they should have been doing for a long time, and they haven't really taken advantage of that. The only thing similar to that we've ever gotten was Pokemon Conquest, which was set in like a feudal Japan era, which was a great game, by the way. I used to want a sequel for it until, you know, modern days, when I realized that if we did get a sequel for it, it'd be like mobile gacha bullshit, and now I don't want one anymore. But anyway, I like the concept of it. The execution is, again, something we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. They showed some gameplay for this thing, and they mentioned that this is going to be an action RPG, as opposed to the turn-based RPG that we're used to. Which, we don't really know what all they mean by that. Now, it did show the player character sort of sneaking around in the overworld, which, the way they described it, there's like one village. It sounds like it's going to be like your hub world. And then you sort of go out into the wilds of Sinnoh, and you're just trying to catch Pokemon. Which, one thing that is cool, I'll give them credit for this, the Pokeballs are like old-timey Pokeballs. Like, the bottom of them look like they're made of wood, and they got like a little metal latch on them. I like the aesthetic of the old-timey Pokeballs. I think that's kind of cool. But anyway, you're going out into the wilderness, and it showed you just sort of sneaking up on Pokemon and throwing a ball at them and catching them without actually entering into a battle with them at all. Which, that is something I absolutely hate. I do not like this fucking concept of just throwing a ball at a Pokemon. Go started this fucking bullshit, and they do it in the anime all the time, and I fucking hate it. The whole point of Pokemon games is battling the wild Pokemon and weakening them before you catch them. And that's something they're really getting away from, and I don't really like that. Now, they did show that you can battle the wild Pokemon. They showed a very brief battle clip where you were, like, you know, selecting from the 4 moves like you would normally be. So, I don't know exactly how the battle system in this game is going to work, if it's still going to be the normal turn-based battle system that we're used to, or if it's going to be some sort of hybrid, sort of semi-turn-based, semi-action battle system. I don't know how this is going to go, but they showed you being able to, you know, sneak up on Pokemon and catch them outside of battle. It showed you being able to do like a dodge roll. It would be kind of cool if they had the Pokemon actually sort of like charge at you, certain ones, and like attack the actual human instead of just the Pokemon. Which I highly doubt they would do something like that, but it would be interesting. So, gameplay wise, again, I'm not sold on this. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. They mentioned that this game is set in a time before being a trainer was even a thing. So it sounds like the only battles in the game are going to be against other wild Pokemon. It doesn't sound like there's going to be any other trainers in the game. There's obviously not going to be, a Pokemon League or gyms or anything like that. So, outside of completing the Pokedex, I don't know exactly what there'll be to do in this game. People won't shut up about, my open world bullshit, ignoring the fact that there might not be very much to do in this fucking open world. Which is one of the fucking reasons that open world is bullshit and people need to get off that fucking horse. But anyway, I might make a whole nother video talking about that at some point. But one thing, if obviously they said that the story is going to be involving Arceus, he's going to be on the cover. They didn't show the cover art, so again, we don't know if Arceus is going to get a new form or anything or not. He should. He's supposed to be the fucking god of Pokemon, and now he's like the 7th strongest or some shit. There's a bunch of Megas and Ultra Necrozma and things like that are stronger than him now. So I hope he gets a new form just to be bumped back up to, the strongest Pokemon, at least in terms of base stat total. But anyway, there's some kind of story involving Arceus. You're going to be exploring the region. Since the gameplay and things are obviously going to be vastly different in this game, I think it would be pretty cool if we actually got a proper quest system implemented for once. That's something that Pokemon has needed for a while, really. If they, have like different side quests you can do for NPCs to go find a certain Pokemon, or maybe gather items if they have some sort of, gathering item crafting system or whatever. Actually have a proper quest log in the menu and quest markers and things like that. This would be a perfect opportunity to implement something like that. Now, whether or not they actually go that route is anyone's guess, but that's one of the things that I thought of when they were showing this, and maybe we'll get that. The other thing that was sort of interesting that they showed with this, the starters, you're not going to be picking from the Sinnoh starters, Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup, like you are in the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Instead, the starters you're going to be picking from are Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Oshawott, which is a really random pairing. They just took 3 old starters from 3 different generations and smashed them together. Which they mentioned that the professor picked these Pokemon up in his travels, and that's why they're your starters to choose from. But, that's something different. One thing that I've seen a lot of people mention was maybe, since it's all old starters, maybe they're going to get regional evolutions or something. Which I said before, I was upset that we're most likely not going to be getting Sinnohan regional variants in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It would be pretty cool if we got alternate evolutions for those 3. The only problem will be, since these games are supposed to be set in the past, then, how would you explain them not being present in modern Sinnoh? But, they do the whole multiverse, different dimension bullshit, so they can probably just hand wave it with that. But, again, that's something different, and it has potential to be something really cool, but, Pokemon leaves a lot of potential on the table all the time, so I wouldn't be getting my hopes up for it or anything. But anyway, overall, I'm not as disappointed as I was expecting to be. I was expecting to have them just show, Diamond and Pearl remakes in the Sword and Shield style with Dynamax shoved in for no fucking reason, and basically that's your fucking game. That's not what we're getting, and I'm glad we're not getting that, because I didn't really have any desire to have that. I'm not sold on either of these games. The Diamond Pearl remakes, which are coming out this year, and the Legends Arceus game, which is coming out. They said early next year, so early 2022. I'm not sold on either of these. I'm taking a wait and see approach with both of them. I definitely want to see more of the gameplay from the Legends Arceus game, and I want to see how bad things get cut and how much content is removed from the Diamond Pearl remakes before I actually decide if I'm going to be buying either of these or not. But there's a small chance that I might be buying at least one of them, and that's more of a chance than I was expecting there to be coming out of this presentation. So I'm not really super excited about any of this, but like I said, it could have been a lot worse. So I'm just going to take a wait and see approach, and hopefully things will turn out at least halfway decent. But anyway, I guess that's all I got to say. So lots of luck to you and yours.